Good evening from a slightly damp Wirral. It's been a bit damp today, but it's still warm. So, anyway, I've been online for a couple of days. I've just been posting some different articles and stuff like that. But I come online now, catch up on a bit of news. I've been busy doing a refurb, that's why I've been online. And I've come across an article with Property 118, and I need to link into the NRLA website most probably as part of this. I might pause the recording, see a bit of a jump. That's what's happening. So this is an article from Property 118. Their article, so all credit to them for the article. I'm going to go through it and comment on it because it gives a lot of important information for landlords. Can't get the words out. Okay, so originally, well, over last week, it was the Renters' Rights Bill was set to come into effect by the 22nd of July this year. However, things have now changed. So the Renters' Rights Bill, and I'm quoting from Property 118 here, is unlikely to secure royal assent before Parliament's summer recess on the 22nd of July, says the NRLA. So, with the House of Lords set to scrutinise the legislation over 3 sittings from the 1st to the 15th of July, originally it was only 1 sitting, and I think that's what the thing that's changed. The NRLA is intensifying efforts to address significant flaws that could render the bill impractical for landlords. The report stage is a pivotal moment in the legislative process. It allows peers to propose and vote on amendments to refine the bill before its final approval. So I think that's key. Obviously at the moment the feeling is the bill is very much on the side of tenants. There's not really any balance with that. I'm not saying the tenants don't deserve rights, but it needs to be a balanced bill. However, in an update for members, the NRLA says that with just 7 days between the final debate and the parliamentary break, the timeline is tight. It is. If royal assent is delayed, the earliest it could occur is September, pushing the implementation of new tenancy rules to November or even the new year. So that's the impact of this delay. Okay, so Housing Minister Matthew Pennycook, what a name, it's good, has confirmed that the new tenancy system will apply to all private tenancies upon commencement, stating, upon the commencement date, the new tenancy system will apply to all private tenancies. Existing tenancies will become periodic and any new tenancies will be governed by the new rules. However, secondary legislation such as the Decent Home Standard and a new landlord database will require additional time, prompting the NRLA to push for a 6-month transition period to allow landlords to adapt. The NRLA says we are now lobbying for a minimum 6 months between secondary legislation and implementation, allowing landlords time to adjust and put new systems in place. So the Renters' Rights Bill amendments, the NRLA, alongside housing and legal experts, is pressing for amendments to ensure the bill balances tenant protections with a sustainable rental market. So that's what I said before, that it seems at the moment it's very heavily on the side of the tenants, and there needs to be a bit more balance out to balance it out. Again, I'm not saying tenants don't deserve more rights, but I think it needs to be a balanced bill. So the key concerns are court preparedness. So there is a massive concern over the fact that the bill relies on grounds-based possession system to replace Section 21. But courts currently take more than 32 weeks to process claims. 32 weeks, guys. That's over half a year. 7 months, 7.5 months. Far exceeding the 8 weeks suggested by ministers. So the NRLA is demanding a clear definition of court readiness and a transparent timeline, because this is going to mean extra work. So you need extra staff, you need extra infrastructure. And hey, the British government, whoever's in power being what it is not the best to put an infrastructure in place beforehand. The next concern is tribunal overload. So tenants can appeal rent increases to the property tribunal without cost, risking a flood of cases. The NRLA proposes requiring tenants to verify rent increases with the Valuation Office Agency first. So that's a bit of a no-brainer really, because your tenants could just hold things up by putting unsubstantiated claims over rent rises. Now, I always keep my rents a little bit below market rate. Not for that matter, but just to keep it competitive and people feel like they're getting not a bargain, but they're getting good value for money. And I don't like to rip people off. I want to provide decent accommodation at a decent price. So I always keep mine a little bit below market rate, and that's how I act. So for me, I would be saying, as my defence, my rents are always below market rate. Up to you guys what you do, but make it easier for yourselves would be my suggestion. So there's that. So again, it's down to infrastructure and the amount of claims. They don't know how many claims are going to come in. Do they realise what that might do, etc.? So they need to look at that. And then there's a rent arrears uncertainty. The bill prevents landlords from reclaiming properties due to universal credit delays, but landlords cannot access tenant benefit information. The NRLA calls for this clause's removal to avoid penalising landlords for government delays. I don't deal with social housing and universal credit. My lender doesn't allow it. I got some lending off Precise. Precise don't like you to lend to social housing. And they actually made me take the SIC code off my company for social housing. So I don't deal with it. And, I'm not sure about that effect. So those out there who do deal with social housing, universal credit, comment below and tell me what you think of this. Do you feel this is going to be a big issue? Have you had issues with universal credit before, etc.? Drop it in the comments below down here, just underneath me, just there. Yeah. And then the next one is student housing gaps. So the bill includes possession grounds for student HMOs, but excludes smaller student properties, potentially reducing housing options. The NRLA seeks broader possession rules to cover all student occupants. Again, I don't deal with student accommodation. It's not my thing. I'm a buy-to-let, resi commercial developer, property investor. So it's not my thing. But if you do HMOs for student accommodation, drop some comments below, please. Let's have a debate about it. And then we're coming down to the final concern, which is system accountability. Now, the NRLA supports amendments proposed by Baroness Thornhill for reviews of the tenancy system after 3 years, which makes sense, and the court system within 2 years to ensure reforms meet their goal. I would say that's not enough. Looking at it from my background in health and safety, writing management plans for local authorities, writing policies and procedures, reviews are an ongoing process. They don't wait 3 years. You should be looking at that 6 months in, 12 months in, 18 months in, or whatever time period you feel is appropriate. However, waiting 2 or 3 years, I don't think is appropriate. It needs to be monitored and reviewed consistently or constantly for consistent progress in getting it better and making it better for both the landlord and the tenant. That's my view. So I don't agree with that. I think it's too loose. I think it gives it too much time. And, come 3 years in, there's been a host of problems, and then you've got the problems stacking up and you've got to sort them out. Keep monitoring and reviewing as you're implementing it. That is the best way to do it. Don't leave it 3 years and then come back to it. That's bollocks. So the NRLA warns that without these changes, the bill risks creating an unworkable system for both tenants and landlords. I'd say without putting in a more tighter regime of monitoring and review, it risks the same thing. So as the Lords prepare for debate, the Association is urging peers to address these issues to deliver a fair and effective rental market and reform. So that's the article. I'm not going to drop on the NRLA website. I think it's covered it adequately with this article. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's have a debate about it. I may well do an episode on this in my podcast at a future date. I'm going to put a link for my podcast down below, as I always do. Please like, subscribe and share. Costs you nothing to share, but means a huge amount to me for all your support. I'm really grateful for that. So have a think about this because it is a massive effect on landlords, or potential effect on landlords. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let's have a debate. See you next time.